This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Inc., Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
It's premiere week on The Kelly Clarkson Show, and we've got music's biggest stars all week long. Performances by John Legend, Little Big Town, Machine Gun Kelly, and Common. And appearances by Usher, Josh Groban, Queen Latifah, and more. Get ready, y'all. The Kelly Clarkson Show, all new season 2.
Weekdays at 2 on NBC4.
Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me is my Buddy Read co-host, Classy Green. We'll be discussing the audiobook version of The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this month's Buddy Read discussion featured here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, every week we get bookish with book discussions, book reviews, shelf bites, and more. If you're wondering what's a Buddy Read, this feature is where Classy and I select a thriller or mystery title that we're both interested in. Then we have a candid discussion about the book or audiobook. We even discuss it in our Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official, during a live chat. So grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a cup of tea or coffee, or whatever your drink of choice is, and settle in for this fun discussion. As always with book chats, there is a spoiler alert in effect. You've been warned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with your book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing so. The uncut video version of this podcast is available right now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. You can find both myself and Classy on Instagram and Twitter. If you've read the book or listened to the audiobook and would like to contribute to the conversation, be sure to join the Shelf Addiction Official Facebook group. I hope to hear your thoughts on this discussion. The links for everything I've mentioned are below in the show notes.
We've got a lot to cover today, so we are going to jump right on in. Joining me is the Buddy Read feature co-host, Classy Green. Welcome back, Classy.
Hi, Tamara. Hi, everyone.
So today we are discussing the audiobook version of The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. It was narrated by Bailey Carr, January Lavoie, and Samantha Des. I believe that's how you pronounce it, I hope. Let's cross our fingers. Yeah. The length is 9 hours and 59 minutes. Released August 4th, 2020 by Macmillan Audio. But before we get started, Classy is going to share the synopsis.
Okay, The Night Swim by Megan Goldin. After the first season of her true crime podcast became an overnight sensation and set an innocent man free, Rachel Crall is now a household name and the last hope for thousands of people seeking justice. But she's used to being recognized for her voice, not her face, which makes it all more unsettling when she finds a note on her car windshield addressed to her, begging for help. The small town of Neapolis is being torn apart by a devastating rape trial. The town's golden boy, a swimmer destined for Olympic greatness, has been accused of raping a high school student, the beloved granddaughter of the police chief. Under pressure to make season 3 a success, Rachel throws herself into interviewing and investigating, but the mysterious letters keep showing up in unexpected places. Someone is following her, and she won't stop until Rachel finds out what happened to her sister 25 years ago. Officially, Jenny Steele's tragically drowned, but the letters insist she was murdered. And when Rachel starts asking questions, nobody seems to want to answer. The past and present start to collide as Rachel uncovers startling connections between the two cases that will change the course of the trial and the lives of everyone involved.
Before we get going, I do want to also, I usually don't do trigger warnings, but I feel like we should for this one. This has sexual assault, rape. I I think that, can you think of another one that we might need to warn?
No.
Yeah, those two.
I think those are the two triggers.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yep.
So just FYI, if you're sensitive to that conversation, because, that's a big part of this book 2 times over.
Yeah.
First,
yes.
I guess we'll just jump in and I'll tell you one of the things that I really loved about this book, especially on audio, is I loved how it went back and forth between the true crime podcast that Rachel hosts and writes for. And then we're going back to Rachel's point of view in present time. And also, what's the girl's name?
Hannah's letters, right?
Yeah, Hannah's letters through Hannah's point of view, and eventually Hannah's point of view, just not through her letters.
Right.
But I thought it was interesting at first that it was her reading her a letter to Rachel and explaining to us at the same time.
Yeah, it was a very interesting point of view. And it wasn't confusing. I didn't think it was confusing.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a few reviews and a few people were like, it was just too much. It was too much back and forth. But those are people who, that's not their preference. So,
well, not being funny. That's why I recommend this on audio, because maybe written, it might be confusing.
I thought the same when I read that. The audio really helped because, you had the segment where you had the music. So you knew when her podcast was coming. You knew, even though it mentions Hannah as the chapter, but the difference in those voices really made this book very stellar.
Yes.
The audio anyway.
Yes, because they would say, Hannah, then it would be Hannah's chapter, Rachel, and then the only thing that might be confusing is when Hannah's chapters come, you may not know immediately that she's reading a letter.
Right. You won't know until actually reading a letter, or is she telling her story? Exactly.
Yeah. Which both of the stories. Okay. So also, before I get going on that, if you guys listen to Serial, I recommend, especially season 1 of Serial. I know I shared this with you, Classy, but Rachel's podcast format reminds me of Serial. Like her as a host reminds me of the host of Serial. Like how once Serial got real popular, she became real popular, just like Rachel in this book. Suddenly people were recognizing her and she was sort of a celebrity of sorts. And that, like, all of that kind of just reminded me of, and then the whole you be the judge you be the jury kind of thing.
Okay. See, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I mean, listen to it. So.
Because in Serial, the first season was Adnan's story, and he went to jail. He was found guilty of killing his girlfriend. So we got both sides. We got his side. We got, the prosecution side, right? And then she started digging and found that, hey, some of this evidence wasn't presented. She found someone to say he was somewhere else. So basically, through her podcast, they revisited his case. Okay. So that's what she did in this book. That's what kind of gained her the notoriety, is that Rachel got someone out of jail
right
after her podcast aired.
Right. The coach, the husband who was a high school football coach or something, who didn't kill it, or who was accused of killing his wife, right?
Yeah.
I think that was it. Yep.
Yeah. So I feel like if you haven't read the book and you're thinking about reading the book, if you like true crime podcasts, because to me, this was a mystery, not a thriller.
Right.
And it had a lot of courtroom time as well. You like that, you'll like this.
Yeah. Yeah, true crime, court drama, mystery, but I didn't see it as a thriller at all.
Me neither.
No. That thing was chilling or thrilling or whatever. Yeah, I didn't see that. Was it marked as a thriller?
It was the second tag on Goodreads, so.
It sure was. Okay, Goodreads, folks.
I know it's not a thriller. I mean,
No.
sometimes I feel like when people mark stuff, I want to ask, you must not read a lot of thrillers because you don't know what a thriller is.
No. And I probably marked it as a thriller just because of the genre tags, when I'm like picking them. But no, it was not a thriller to me. More true crime, like you said, and mystery.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep.
Yeah. So we gave you these trigger warnings. Let's talk about what's happening in these two situations, real time and then in the past.
Right. 25 years ago. So 25 years ago, Hannah's sister, Jenny, according to Hannah, she was murdered. But according to, I won't say folklore, but according to the autopsy and the ME report, she drowned during a night swim. Because they said she was known to take some night swims, and she jumped off the jetty into very deep water, hit her head, and basically drowned. But Hannah knew differently. And I think even before Hannah's mother, Hope, I think her name was, before she passed away, wanted the police to investigate her daughter's death because she believed she was murdered as well. But the mother had cancer and had died before, they could get to investigate her death. So Hannah wound up losing her mom and her sister within less than 2 months' time?
Yeah, it was a couple months.
Yeah. So here you have a little girl who was like 9 or 10 when this happened, and nothing happened as far as an investigation. They closed the case, closed.
Yeah.
But Hannah grew up and always knew the story behind it and wanted someone to look into this case. And here comes and in comes the storyline of Rachel Craw.
Yeah.
The podcast of, can't remember the name. Gosh.
What was it?
Truth.
Oh my gosh. And we heard the podcast name every chapter. I don't know. I know it was one of her tags was, you be the jury or something was one of their taglines.
Right. Oh my God. I can't believe
guilty or not guilty or something like that.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yep. You be the judge.
Yeah.
Wasn't it like you be the judge or something?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I can't believe I cannot believe I forgot that fast.
So enter Rachel. She comes to Neapolis and she is there for a trial. So her current season, she wants to be at a live trial and talk to her audience about this trial real time. And while she, when she heads into the town, she starts getting these letters, okay, from who? Hannah, right? Hannah.
Mystery lady.
Right, but she doesn't know Hannah. She never sees Hannah. And Hannah is stealth, man. She's like getting these letters to her. At points, she's even like passed her, like seen her, and she didn't even know.
Right. It was like, I was sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
or like she paid for her lunch. Yeah. Just some. Yeah. She was ninja-like.
Yeah, she was. She was very stealth. But every letter, she was trying to encourage Rachel to look into her sister's death more. And I think she even said this at the end. I think she was rediscovering what happened by writing out these letters because she was very young. So
right. It was like it was triggering her memory.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was crazy because it's like one of those, telltale kind of stories where, we're just going to jump into it. So unfortunately, Jenny, her older sister, I think she was maybe 15 or 16 around there.
Right.
She was attacked. She was raped. Okay. And then after that, it seemed like everyone just thought they could just have turns with her. Everyone, all the boys.
Yeah.
And she was labeled the town hoe, basically.
Yeah. It was sad how many times this girl was attacked.
Yeah.
And because of a reputation, her family name, reputation,
Mm-hmm.
them being poorer than the other people in the town. It was just sad. And once the guys got her name out there like that, it ruined it.
I mean, her life was
Ruined it.
basically.
Yeah.
I mean, she became very depressed.
Yeah.
She didn't want to leave her room. It seemed like she finally got herself together. She was kind of hiding out from these guys. And then they keep finding her, like, on the street. And it's like the crazy... I'm like, why didn't you tell somebody the first time? Like, why wouldn't you say something?
I think she was just worried too. I thought the same thing. And then I started kind of like trying to put myself in her shoes. And they were really worried about their mom. Jenny was, basically like the caretaker. And once her mom got sick, she probably felt like, I do not need to add another burden on my mother's plate. Another worry could mean, her being a month or more having less time with us. So, and even Hannah mentioned that, hey, I didn't want my mom to worry or.
Yeah, because Hannah, as a child, I thought children had loose lips, right? Several things happened that Hannah was privy to. Like when that guy came up to her and started asking her questions about her phone number. And then Jenny comes up and she's like, what did he say to you? Oh, nothing.
Yeah, he didn't want anything.
Right.
But yeah, it was kind of like she was almost, because Jenny was nice. Jenny was she seemed to be a very nice girl. Innocent, would talk to anyone. And it seemed like Hannah had that little insight of knowing he's up to no good. I'm not even going to bother my sister with nonsense.
But then later, though, a scene came up where her own mother took her to the beach. She was feeling better one day. She took her to the beach and that guy approached her trying to throw some gum at her. And she's like, what was that? And again, oh, nothing.
Yeah, I saw that. I did remember that very clearly because the mom was like, "Oh, I know those boys, or I know their type. I knew their fathers, and so yeah, it does make you wonder."
And then after the mother says they're no good, blah blah blah, you still not gonna say anything?
And still took rides with them. That was one thing that bothered me. Like, I don't care how bad your feet are and you know that they're creepy. I'm walking with bloody feet home.
Yes.
Sorry.
You have to drag me kicking and screaming into that vehicle. Ain't no way.
Nope.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that Jenny didn't start carrying a knife. I would have stabbed the guy in his gut. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I don't care if that knife wasn't sharp.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need a tetanus shot,
right.
Something. But no, yeah, it was. And I think, now that we mentioned those type of things, those are some things that you're like, I'm not sure, but it could happen, because sometimes you can put enough fear in people. Even I think, was it this story or was it another story I was listening to where they were saying, trying to put not putting the fear of God in this child, but I think just being in that small town where everybody knew each other, that she didn't want to cause any more trouble. So the less friction she had with the town people, she wanted to disappear. So, But yeah, I think I would have carried a knife too.
Yeah.
I'm glad to get to that one scene that I was just like, are you kidding me? I'll write that one down because that one pissed me the hell off.
Yeah.
The when they walked home with the grocery bags.
The little sister, Hannah, please, can we get a ride? I don't want to walk in the rain. Like, little girl, let's just hurry the hell up then. Okay.
Right. I run this.
Because that was the biggest. I knew it was bad. She got out the car and then the sister was still stuck in the car.
Yeah. And they drove off. But, then I think too, like when I was reading this story, I'm thinking to myself, this is somebody's story. I just maybe have never experienced this. Or in my neighborhood, I'm just thinking my community would be like, I'm either crawling over, I'm fighting.
Yeah. You're
not
look
just
like you were
driving away.
Look, you're not going to school looking normal. You're going to look like somebody tussled with your ass.
Right.
That's what's happening.
Right. Yeah. I'm fighting. There's no way where you rolling down the window saying, she wants to go fishing with us. And my sister has to go home. Well, according to Megan, she would have went home and wouldn't have told anybody anything. But anyway, and maybe that's why I struggle with some of these situations, because I'm like, I don't think I would have just sat there in between those two busters and not fight. As soon as that car stopped and my little sister got out, we're all getting out.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I'll be back in the back seat.
I would have made a biggest fit so that the little girl would have ran off and grabbed somebody because she's fighting to get out of the car.
Right. It's obvious, right, that she needs to know that, no, I don't want to go fishing with Billy Bob and whatever the little boy's name was. Mm-hmm. No. Well, she never did mention the other guy's names. I think all we knew was Bobby.
Yeah.
The gray-eyed boy later on. But right, there would have been some points. But again, I had to, this is somebody else's story. And I'm hoping, when people write, that they write from either experience or have heard of some type of experience. And that just wasn't my experience.
I just cannot relate to that at all. Like, and in our community, I also know that little siblings are going to rat you out. Mom, she done took off with some boys.
Girl, that could be a whole podcast. Don't get me started on my little sisters.
Because there was more than one boy.
Snitched on.
Yes. Let alone one boy, but more than one boy. She just took off. Right.
Yes, I have been snitched on several times. And the thing is the things that I was snitched on was not even this. And not to say what she did was bad, because what Jenny did was not bad. It was all the boys. The things that the boys had done. But yeah, no, that age, they can't hold water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I struggle.
Yeah. Like, especially with her story more than the other story, because the current story that Rachel is there to, watch unfold in the courtroom, the little girl, I mean, it's the same situation. It's very similar.
Right. Except for there wasn't a little sister in the midst, but this story, right, the Kay story is, I don't think there was too many things that I didn't believe. Everything was very believable.
So let's talk about what happened to Kay. So Kay is a code name because she's a child. She's a teenager. So that is what they used to call her, during the court proceedings. So people wouldn't be even though it's a small town, people knew anyway, but they were calling her Kay. So what happened to her was, unlike Jenny, this was not a repeat thing. This happened one time to her, and she got home and she told her mother when she got home. So what happened to her was she left a party intoxicated. She walked with some boy. They went to the playground. The boy says, I'm going to go get some weed and something to drink, and I'll be back. So the boy leaves, and then another boy comes, a pretty well-known boy who is like, I think he was starting college or he was in college, and he was going to be a pro swimmer.
Yep. Freshman, I think. Yep.
Yeah. So he comes, and suddenly he's like, you know what? What's his face isn't coming back. I'll give you a ride home.
Yeah.
She takes the ride. And boy, is that the worst ride she ever took. Right. And it's like, he was the worst.com, and that was the worst. He pretty much she didn't feel threatened by him until
the beach.
Until the beach. So they went, she was thinking, okay, you're going to take me home. He passed her street. He's like, oh, let's grab some food. She's like, okay, they grab pizza. Oh, let's just go to the beach and eat it. I think she wanted to go home, but she didn't want to be that girl. So she was like, okay, sure, let's go eat the pizza.
Because he was popular. He was popular. He was well
Right.
known. He had the cool car. And he used everything. He knew everything it took to get a girl, basically.
Yeah.
He knew it. He knew his fame. He knew his wealth, and wealth. And I'm correlating his wealth with the car. Granted, they knew he was wealthy too, but to be in a drop top convertible at that age, and
she
so
wanted to be
knew.
cool. So she was like, she went along.
And he knew that she got kicked out of that party for being with her girlfriend, Alexis or Alexa or whatever. I can't remember. But he knew because Kelly got kicked out of the party for hugging up with her friend's
ex,
or somebody she wanted that she liked. So he kind of knew what he was dealing with.
Well, he shouldn't have been there in the first place, but he crashed that party. He crashed that high school party with intent to do harm.
Yeah.
And that later came out in the trial. Right.
Yeah.
So the whole trial, we were going back. Well, I knew the whole time. I didn't even guess that this guy was innocent at all. But during the trial, the whole thing was, well, was it like consensual, but then she changed her mind? Or did he actually do what he was accused of? That was basically the question for the whole duration of the trial.
Right. But you know what? I felt like there was no doubt that, but again, and that might be my bias because I am a woman and I am a woman. I'll just leave it there. But it just felt like all the evidence was there.
The physical evidence was there.
It was. And I was like waiting to see were they going to drop a bomb? Because I was like, okay, so they say it's a mystery. And that's why I was like, okay, it's a mystery. So maybe he didn't. But it was just so obvious. I mean, the drinks were spiked and I mean, they brought alcohol and then they spiked the empty.
Like there were pops that were half gone or something, and then they put
and they spiked them with vodka, right? With extra vodka.
Yeah.
So,
which is strange to me because unless you're totally like taste deaf or something, I don't know, tasteless or no taste buds, I can tell when vodka has been put into pop.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but you are. Yeah. Well, you know what I was gonna say. You're an adult and you know what vodka tastes like. But you know what though? If you're younger, you drink, you immediately know when something's off. That's true. Because you're a virgin to it, you're like, oh, this doesn't taste like Coke or Pepsi. This is gross.
And it's watered down. The fizz is probably half gone.
But she was already inebriated. So
she was already drinking before.
And hadn't eaten.
So she definitely made some dumb choices, but you should be allowed to make dumb choices and stumble your way home in the middle of the night without being accosted and attacked.
Let the church say amen.
Yes.
Yeah, that was no excuse because she was drunk and then all of a sudden, and even if she did, well, no, I felt like he was guilty from the beginning. But again, I'm biased. I'm a woman. And
well, even leaving that bias out because I believe in proof. And that, to me, that proof was the very first expert witness that the prosecution called. They said they did the rape kit. So the girl,
right?
She was smart. Her mother took her right away. They did the rape kit, so they could tell that bruises where they were like defensive bruises from you trying to keep someone off you.
Right. Yeah, I was. That part, like the rape kit and the testimony was, wow.
There was no doubt. He did it.
Yeah. I mean, when they described the bruises on her thighs and they were caused from her trying to fight him or him pushing her legs
and
open.
She's trying to keep them closed and he's trying to push them open. There's bruises.
Oh, my God. My heart just was like, whoa.
Right.
Because you hear about these things. You kind of read it, but this book laid it out. And It did. It really did. And I think she did a great job doing it. It was tough, but I think she did it tastefully. And I think the slowness of this, because you know how I am with slow burns. I'm like, come on. And this could have been described as a slow burn, but I think you needed that to appreciate this story and the way it had to be done and the respect of how rape victims are treated.
And they are treated shitty.
Yeah. And I mean, and not to say that rape kit is shitty, it's a process, but like they said in the story, the evidence for a rape victim is on their body. So the thing that the rape victim has to endure, not just that, it was
that.
Yeah.
And then having to retell it over and over again, reliving that over and over again, and then still be called a liar by the defense. And then they have experts that say, oh, that's just, kids being silly and fooling around, little rough sex. Get the frick out of here. Are you kidding me?
Fumbling. They're new to this. They don't know where nothing fits. I'm like, yeah, right.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I'm not fumbling. You mean fighting is called fumbling now?
That is so ridiculous. And
yeah.
The whole thing was a fiasco. And I could feel, like, I guess that is another thing that Megan Goldin did well. Because I could feel the frustration of not only the jurors, but of Rachel. She's sitting there every day listening to this. And she's like, what?
Yeah, you could. And she gave, the courtroom descriptions of how the judge looked and the jury and the attorneys, and even Scott. Is his name Scott?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the rapist, and the family, and you could feel it building up, and you could actually kind of, at one point I felt like my shoulders was like this and I was like this, and I'm like, it's an audiobook. It is not a movie.
Yeah.
I found myself like kind of like staying really close as if I was watching a courtroom case. So
yeah, I mean, and she went into it like that made me wonder if she has some experience in law or some experience in a courtroom, because she would say, during her podcast segments, like, you could tell the jury was checking out with all the boring stuff. He is using this posture, like the defense attorney is posturing. He's doing this clumsy thing, trying to relate to people, and that's what he's doing, but it's working.
Yep.
So
he erased everything that the defense attorney, Kay's attorney, had just set up. His opening argument. So,
and I almost feel like even the judge was trying to disturb the process of that trial, because he's joking around about lunch. They're joking around. Like, what is this? What is this? This is not
right. We do not want to hear about your people taking care of the jury. Chop, chop, sir. This is a rape case.
Yes.
This is not a tax fraud case.
Exactly. I'm like, what is going on? The judge is ridiculous. The defense attorney is ridiculous. Like, what?
Yeah. The antics. But yeah, she did a great job building up that feel in a courtroom of how a rape victim would feel. And
why so many people don't bother, because they know that's what they're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. But the other people, and on the other hand, the people who are being accused, you have people saying their lives are ruined because of this, and that, and now they can't have their career and this. And I'm like, this woman's mental state is shot.
Yeah.
Shot. Even if this man is convicted.
Yeah.
This woman will never, it will take, if she ever recovers.
She's a child.
Yeah.
She's going to be in therapy for years and years.
And all they can think about is his Olympic career. He'll never be able to do this, and that. And now, and he's a good boy just made a stupid mistake. Yeah. Yeah.
No. And then it comes out. So in the case, you guys, it comes out that I start to wonder, how many times has he raped women? How many people were on his count? Because him and his friend were keeping score of how many each of them had. And his own friend even testified. That made me wonder, how many people did you rape? You were ahead.
Yeah. The friend was ahead by 3 before he got to K.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once he got to K, then it was 2. So,
but how many were on that list?
Yeah.
7, 8, 10?
Right. Yeah. And it was, somebody even said, I think, Harris Wilson had said that once, gosh, I think his name is Scott Blair or whatever. Once he gets a little drunk or he gets a little, basically into himself, he can't be reckoned. He has this temper, and I kind of got the feeling that they meant he gets a temper, or he gets it in his head and he's got to do it because he has this competitive streak and you can't stop him. Mm-hmm. So he seems like his roommate. I'm not sure. I don't know if he was just having sex with girls and marking them as not just, but the swimmer was definitely a rapist.
Oh, he was.
I mean, the things that he did to her was no doubt. That wasn't some fumbling.
No, he knew what he was doing. Yes.
You made her wash in the shower.
Yes.
And then you ran back, you got in your car, you gave her some little bus money, and then you tried to get back to your place, to your room in college, just as if you never came home. So
he tried to fake an alibi.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God.
He knew exactly what he was doing. And then he threatened her. Now let's talk about kind of how, so she, Kay did get on the stand. She went through 4 hours of that with the defense. With the prosecution, right? 4 hours of that. Right. And then the defense had his chance and she broke down 10 minutes in to his part.
Yeah.
So they took her off. And they were like, well, we'll continue the trial. And when she's able, she will come back and finish. But her mother didn't want her to finish and her father did. And so that was a point of contention in that family.
Yeah.
And then, they opted out, obviously, because the girl's therapist is like, this girl gonna crack. Don't do it. So obviously you listen to the therapist, right? You listen to the therapist.
Yep.
So with that said, the whole thing was, well, if you don't finish your part on the stand, they're going to pull everything. They're going to strike it all out. It's all going to be gone because the defense didn't get a chance to finish,
to cross-examine.
Right? And so that is exactly what happened. Her whole testimony, 4 hours and 10 minutes of testimony, was the jury was told to disregard it completely, like you never heard it.
How do you do that? I'm sorry. Okay. Right.
But look, as a jury member, I'm like, but I still remember it. How do you do that? I still remember.
How do I erase that?
Right.
But I'm supposed to, but yeah.
Right.
That was a lot. And that alone told you that that girl just couldn't take it anymore. That they're going to erase 4 hours. And she said, so be it. So be it. You're not getting me up there anymore. I can't do this. Yep. Because, she could have, all I thought of is either you want her on that stand so you can convict this man, or do you want your daughter alive or dead?
Mm-hmm. Because she could have got up there and completed it and then jumped off a cliff the next day. You don't want to break her like that. You don't.
Yeah. And nope. And those are things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's very deep. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's heavy business in this book. Okay, it's heavy.
Yeah, it is. It's a heavy topic, but I think she did a good job.
She did.
Yeah.
And then in the 9th hour, so through this whole thing, Rachel is like still kind of doing a side investigation of this trial. So she is starting to talk to people like Scott Blair's parents, trying to get more insight to him. She's learning more about his parents. She's trying to dig things like why is this prosecutor back? He is a well-to-do defense attorney, but now he's back. So why is that? So she's starting to do some digging alongside kind of halfway investigating, Hannah's situation.
Right. And also the other Alkins, Hayes' attorney, he was a prosecutor, and now he came back as a defense. Wait a minute, which one makes more money? Because remember, she said, "What made you come back?"
Okay, if I remember correctly, because oh Lord, I think I just got it screwed up. It was in my mind straight, but now I feel like I just screwed it up. Okay.
Oh God, both attorneys are back in town. Basically, they grew up there and now they're back in town.
Right. Okay, so, but the prosecutor, the one that was, bringing the charges and was, I guess he wasn't directly Kay's attorney, but he represented the state, right?
Right. Okay.
He was a detective back in the day before he left. Because he was the one at the end that was talking to Rachel about he would have to break client attorney privilege to tell her exactly why he came back.
Okay.
But at the time, and now this is where things get a little murky and how like the stories cross. So back in the day, 25 years ago, he was a police officer or a detective during the time that Jenny died. Because remember, he and Rachel had this whole conversation about, well, if you went to tell the mother that she died, why didn't you come back to the scene? And he was like, well, I was sent off to do something else. And so he felt bad about not the role he played in not investigating that properly.
Okay.
So he's the same guy. He was there. He was in a police role. And then he left and became a defense attorney, but then came back, which makes me wonder if there's going to be another book, because he came back to make amends for something that he couldn't really tell her.
But, okay, now I'm confused. Because wasn't he the one who liked Jenny when they were kids?
He did. He went out on a date with her. Wasn't that him?
Right. Yeah, he was the one who dated her.
Yeah, when they were... No.
Right, so he couldn't have been... Yeah.
Was that him?
Yep.
No.
Alkins was the guy.
So who was the guy who was the guy?
Now, he did say that too, though. He did. He was the one who said he came back because of the client attorney something, and he couldn't break that. But he was also the guy who would leave her flowers every year. Remember?
Yeah, because she found him. She hid out at the grave, followed him, him to the grave. And then, she saw him get in his car and go to the courthouse. So, yeah, that was him.
Yep. And he was 2 years older than her. So when she died, he couldn't have been a detective.
No. So who am I thinking about? Who was that? The old man. Was that the old man?
His cousin, the
old man that was in the nursing home. Was that the detective? That's
no.
it. Okay, that's it. I confused because the old guy that she went to ask, what happened.
That wasn't the guy who owned the convenience store.
No.
Okay.
Oh, was it?
All right.
I don't know. Look, you guys, there were so many characters. I half drew a character map, like with lines and everything. But then I put the piece of paper down and I couldn't find it. But I started drawing lines to all these names because there are a lot of characters.
There is a lot. But the Alkins is the guy who really liked Jenny and Jenny liked him. Hannah mentioned him in her letters that he took her out for pizza, brought her those little flowers, but dropped them. That was Alkins. And he's the one who always left her flowers and said, "Forgive me."
Right.
But he's also the guy who said, because she said, "Why did you, basically come back for a lower, why did you switch roles as an attorney, basically going from a higher paying position to a lower paying position?" And he did mention because of, he basically was kind of trying to right his wrongs, and he couldn't tell her because of client, attorney client. Right. But he never did mention it, which, like you said, I also thought the same thing, that it's possibly going to be a part 2 to this story. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Possibly. But but the other guy, the detective, I just can't remember who you're mentioning.
Yeah, it's hard to say now because, like I said, so she was investigating 2 things at once. And so some things came from Hannah's letters and some things came from her own investigation. But the point being that they came together at the end and they muddled together. And how that is, well, you know what? Before I tell you exactly what happened at the end, let's take a break. Yes, I'm going to do it to you. We're going to take a quick break. And then we are going to talk about the end and how everything came together. So stay right here. We'll be right back.
This week at Macy's, it's full on fall, and we're so ready for it with the latest trends for cool and crisp weather ahead. Chic black and white styles will be your go-to. Classic plaids feel bold and put together, and so many bright hues add that extra pop to any look. Plus, you won't want to miss new arrivals from your favorite brands like Ink, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and more. Now at Macy's. And Star Rewards members earn on every purchase except gift cards, services, and fees. More info at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
The days are getting shorter, and you can feel it in the air. Yes, it's that time of year. Pumpkin is finally back at Dunkin'. It's the cozy you've been craving all summer long, now in your cup at Dunkin'. Pick up all of your pumpkin favorites, like the signature pumpkin spice iced latte, or a pumpkin iced coffee, and bakery items like pumpkin donuts and muffins. Sip into something comfortable to celebrate the start of cozy season. Use the Dunkin' app for contactless ordering. America runs on Dunkin'.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Shelf Addiction merch store. Check out all the bookish t-shirts, notebooks, mugs, and more. Don't miss out on these original designs, perfect for any book nerd. Support the podcast and visit shelfaddiction.com/merch and pick up your next favorite bookish item.
So before I tell you that, I do feel bad. I feel bad for confusing these characters. I do, but it happens. It happens to the best of us when there's a lot of characters. So
it is.
Please correct me.
Yes.
If you want to.
I want correction.
Yeah, because I know that I'm mixing 2 of the gentlemen I'm mixing 2 characters together. I'm mixing the prosecutor and somebody else's story together.
Right.
And I'm just not sure who at this point. I don't remember. But anyway, so how it all comes together at the end is the end. You've been warned. So how it comes together is that Jenny was killed by Kay's father.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So back in the day, so Kay's grandfather was this great sheriff. He got lots of props. He was a well-known, people looked up to him. He ran the town kind of sheriff. And back in the day, her father, was a young boy in high school running amok. Now he joined this group of guys. It was 4 of them. 3 guys who were raping Jenny every chance they got. And poor Bobby, who was just along for the ride and didn't know how to stop them. And I say poor Bobby, that is the wrong word. Asshole Bobby. He tried to help a little bit, but he didn't do the right thing. He could have stopped it. He didn't do the right thing. So
no.
In the end, what happened was, so let's just say how
he was a victim too. Bobby was a victim too.
In the end, he was a victim because when he finally stood up for something. Yeah. So they've done what they did to Jenny on the beach. That last time, Hannah decided to kind of go and see what was going on. So Hannah was in the mix. Bobby saw her before the others did and tried to hide her. And then when they got to the beach, Bobby told her to run. Did she run? No. She tried to go to a telephone, a telephone back in the day, they had telephone stands, whatever. And she's calling, I think, the operator. And I think she's going to ask for 911. I'm not sure what she's going to ask for. She doesn't get there. Someone sees her, hangs up the phone and breaks it. And then she's dragged out. And in that moment, I'm like, oh, God. Are they going to try to attack this little girl? But they don't, because they make fun of her. They're like, oh, she's a kid. She's flat-chested. Ha, ha, ha. They doing all this the most. And the sister is like, just leave her alone. I'll do what you want. Just leave my sister alone. And then, of course, they start nagging Bobby. Like, oh, you must like them young since you haven't been partaking over here. You must like them. He's like, no. And then all of a sudden, I think he's just had enough of it. He starts tussling with them. 3-on-1. He starts kind of fighting with everybody. They're rolling around in the sand, rolling, fighting. And he gets knocked into the fire pit. That is how this character gets burned.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure. I was like, was he a part of the burned car? Yeah.
Yeah, that shocked me. I'm like, so he didn't even get burned in the car. So,
yeah.
So this character, he's been telling this whole time, like he was, okay, we'll get into that after. We'll get into who Bobby is after. It's so convoluted, guys. It's so convoluted.
It is.
So Bobby is like injured and he faints. He's knocked out. Hannah is like on the ground. They're like, okay, let's leave her. So the boys pick up Bobby and they go get in the car. In the meantime, Hannah runs away to get help because, after they leave, Hannah has this short conversation with her sister. Let's go home. Let's go. She's like, I can't walk. You got to just go get help. I'll stay here. So, the girl is about to faint. She's about to be out. So Hannah goes one way to go get help. The boys cart off Bobby in a car another way. So, of course, the driver of said car is Kay's daddy. What's the daddy's name? Vince Knox, right? No, that's the guy's. That's Bobby's new name.
God, what is the dad's name?
Dan Moore. Is that it? Dan Moore.
That's it, Dan Moore.
So Dan, who is Kay's daddy, is driving the vehicle. And of course, they're all drunk, although, his two of the friends couldn't drive because they were way too drunk. And of course, Bobby is knocked out, so he has to drive. But he drives, wrecks the car, and he gets out of the car, calls his daddy, and the daddy comes. But when they come back, they're like, oh, well, we'll put Bobby in the front seat, and then we'll just leave the car because his friends look like they're about to be dead anyway. They're like, let's just leave them. We'll put Bobby in the front seat and you were never here.
Yep.
So that's what they do. And then Bobby somehow wakes up and drags himself out of the car before the thing explodes. And after that, Bobby leaves. He leaves town like long, because he obviously, when they came and got him, he went to the hospital. He didn't remember anything.
Right.
So we'll talk about what happens to Bobby in the long term. But immediately, of course, after, Dan talks this over with his father, he decides he needs to go back and take care of old Jenny because she could tell what happened to Dan.
She's a witness.
So he comes back and picks her ass up and throws her over the thing into the water. And the child is already wrecked, okay? So she's a strong swimmer, but not if you've been beaten up and attacked all afternoon.
Right.
She couldn't swim. So she drowned.
Mm.
Yes. And then her sister comes back. Everyone, where's my sister? Oh my God. Da, da, da. All of a sudden, the fire. Where's the fire?
Yep.
So
everything right. It wasn't this bad when I left.
Right. Right. So they're looking for her. And of course, they find her body. But of course, so the topic that was decided to be remembered was the 2 boys dying in the fire, not the young girl who drowned, quote unquote.
Right.
So that was a horrible night. Horrible.
Yeah. Right. And one of the boys, I think from the earlier story, was Dan's cousin.
Yeah.
And I knew something was different, was kind of weird with him when Rachel interviewed Dan. And I know I wrote it down, but he was a little, he wasn't, forthtelling during that first interview. He was holding back on a few little things. And I was just like, okay, maybe he's trying to protect Kay, but he was holding back on a few things. So yeah.
So all of that, and it turns out it was like he almost felt it was payback. Like he did that. He was a part of that. And now look what happened to his daughter.
To his daughter. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was the one trying to force her to get back on the stand to get that guy to go to jail. So
yeah.
I'm like, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah. Real crazy. And it was like, I mean, what was your purpose of, I don't know. It was just like, okay, so you want somebody to be convicted, although you weren't convicted.
Right.
Right.
So he felt extreme, I think, guilt over it, but not guilty enough to tell on himself, because that's one of the things that happened in the end is that, Hannah started to remember, and she thinks she knows what happened. As we said, her memories were being triggered. And so at the end there, she invites Rachel to meet with her. When Rachel gets there, she's like, look, I need your help. I think I know who the killer is.
Yeah.
And basically she talks to him and asks him why he did it and what happened, basically. And there's a witness. So what does he try to do? He pulls out a gun.
Yep. But you want your daughter to testify.
Right.
But you still trying to cover up what you did 25 years ago, Mr. Marine, which is probably, all right, that was the thing. Like when she asked about Jenny, he's like, oh, I don't know. I was gone that summer or something. And then I immediately joined the military or something. That's what made me, that's with that interview with Rachel, because he had to do it under the cover of darkness.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah, he was, just goes to show, man. Okay, I won't say that.
You never know people's motives for things, right?
No,
it's like,
you don't.
So anyway, so he tries to take them out and it doesn't work because he left before they actually jumped. Well, in Rachel's case anyway. But Hannah, and she says later at the end, she's not sure if she just got tired and let go or if she was trying, I don't know if she doesn't know if she was trying to kill herself or any, she wasn't even sure what exactly.
She's like, I'm tired.
I'm tired. Yes.
But
Rachel saves her, so save the day.
Yeah. She probably was just like, you know what? I've got my answer. I'm tired. So be it. Because this was a journey for her.
Can you imagine 25 years? Yeah.
Yeah. And then to write these letters. And when you start thinking back to her letters and her stories, her descriptions of these men were, the floppy hair and the this and that, So she began to remember certain things. And even though people grow older, there are some things about people that you can remember. There's something, like if I knew you from, I'll just say some of my childhood classmates, there may be something about somebody, especially if you were a jackass to me, especially if you've done something, I'm going to remember. It may be the gait in your walk. It may be the way you hold, your body or whatever. And I'm betting when she was writing those letters and just talking, she, you began to remember certain things. And with her being in that town and her being in that courtroom, she started recognizing, hold up, there's some key players here that I remember. And if she was in that, and I can't remember, was she in the courtroom when Knox or Bobby was, testifying? I mean, I'm just speculating and adding my own in there. But you know what I mean? She was in this town for how long?
Yeah.
And a lot of these people haven't left, or if they did leave, they came back, and they probably came back thinking, oh, this case is stalled.
Oh, it's been dead. It's 25 years old. It's safe.
We can come back here. Yeah, we can come back here. Nobody's gonna think about that.
Yeah.
Here comes Miss Rachel with her nosy ass bringing it up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that is, you mentioned Knox. So, okay, so Vince Knox was on the stand, and he actually was the saving grace of this whole. He saved people like more than once. So he is like the linchpin to this case, because when Kay was being attacked, he was actually like homeless, like pretty much. And he was in like a shed that was nearby where this attack was happening. And he pretty much was able to tell everything that he saw and heard, which definitely made Scott look very guilty.
Yep. And like you said, he told the truth about everything. He told the truth that Scott did save that family, because that's what y'all want. Because he's like, everything I said was the truth. Because he was a witness for Scott the first time.
For his character, because he saved somebody a little while ago, and he witnessed him saving the people.
Right.
So but then that's it. They didn't ask him anything else.
Nope.
But then Rachel, because she discovered who Scott was, not who Scott, who Vince was from his gray eyes.
Yep. So
she pressed him. Yes. She pressed him, and he was like, get the hell off my beach. Get away from me. He didn't want anything to do with her. But she pressed and pressed and pressed. And then he was called back. He's like, hey, they're like, hey, we want this witness to come back to the stand. And the defense was kind of up about it in arms. And they were like, this is your witness. We want to call your witness.
Yes,
so they allowed it. And he told all the business.
Yeah, because he said, there's more people in this town that have done worse than I have. And they wear suits. And that's the thing, that was another underlying thing, that she kind of threw out there, that while we're looking at, the homeless and the lowly and the ones with tattoos and scars as to be the ones who are the bad people, when in actuality, most of them are in suits and with money and yachts and, prestigious careers, who are the ones who are behind a lot of the crime or, these vicious acts. So,
I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, anybody?
I know, we won't even go there.
But very successful, lots of money, doing the most treacherous, awful things, right?
Yeah. For years.
So, I mean, I'm sure it's lots of people out there who covered for people and helped to bury bodies. And they're wealthy and they're in the 1% and they look this way. And, I bet that's a lot. I'm sure that happens more than you think.
Oh, yeah. Because if you tell, I tell. And it's a vicious cycle, and, that's when the bodies start dropping.
Right.
Yep, that's when the bodies start dropping. So, but yeah, that was very interesting how that was intertwined. So I do have a question, and this may kind of help us with one of the characters. When Dale Quinn, Scott's attorney, mentioned in his opening statement, he was like, I'm from Tennessee. I get this call from Scott, this Olympic swimmer who I had never heard of before, and blah, blah, blah. My wife, told my wife I wasn't going to come down here. But he mentions that he never knew Scott. But early on, Rachel interviewed Scott's parents. Remember when she came to the house, and the parents talked to her, but wouldn't allow him to talk to Scott. And Dale is there, and Scott's dad says, want to know why I hired Dale? besides him being an old, high school buddy that I grew up with. Now, was that mentioned again in the book? Because I'm like, did I miss something? Because remember, he said he didn't know Scott, meaning,
maybe
the son
he left before Scott was born and he never knew Scott, but he knew his father. He didn't say he knew his father.
Yeah, but he didn't. Right, he didn't mention that in the courtroom that he knew his father. But he's like, I get a call from this guy who I never knew, and I'm like, but you knew his dad. His dad said you guys were high school buddies, because everybody left and came back, or everybody was 2 years younger than somebody in high school. I was like, oh Lord, here we go again. I'm like 2 years younger.
Yeah, so, he definitely had a connection there, but
yeah. So I was just wondering, because how sometimes you can miss something listening, and I just wondered, did they bring that back up? That you did know him. You guys.
I don't think it was brought up again, because I'm not sure it actually mattered, because he wasn't involved in any crime or anything.
Okay. And that's what I was wondering too, because I didn't think he was, but did I miss something? Because once you start listening, sometimes you get into a zone and you miss some key pieces. So,
well, let's talk about the verdicts. So let me just say, before we talk about the verdicts, I was very mad because, you are not supposed to put spoilers on Instagram without spoiler tags. You are not supposed to put spoilers anywhere without warning of spoilers, like we do clearly on this discussion podcast. But definitely don't put a spoiler on Instagram or Goodreads or anything without a spoiler warning, so people know stop reading.
Right.
Someone in my feed says, I get very upset when justice isn't served and blah, blah, blah. So the whole time, okay, so that was a spoiler, I think, as far as after reading it, I think that was a spoiler about Jenny, because Jenny's killer killed himself, right?
Yeah.
But at the onset, I thought that spoiler was about Scott. So that whole time I was like, is this asshole about to get off? Is he about to get off? And then
you're like, no, this motherfucker. Were you cursing?
Yes, I was. And as the jury was deliberating during that time, I'm like, shit, are they gonna let him off? That's all I could think. Okay.
Right.
But he did get off on one because of a technicality. So he had one count of rape that was not guilty. Then he had one count of sexual assault that was guilty, and 2 counts of sexual battery that was guilty. And now I had a little note, because I guess in Connecticut, the loophole is if there was no weapon, the weapon defined rape in that case, because he didn't have a gun or a knife or anything. Because
I thought they were in North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina, then.
Okay. No, I'm just
okay, because I wasn't sure. I wrote down Connecticut, but it's probably North Carolina. So wherever this crazy place was, this was the loophole for defining rape legally. Because, the character Rachel even went to the point to point out to her podcast audience that the jury had questions to the judge about the legality and what rape means in this state. So he got off for the rape, but it doesn't matter. He's going to jail for a long time. Yeah. He'll always be a sex offender.
Ting!
Yes, his
that's
record.
A good thing. It's like, I don't care if you serve 8 to 10, because I think that's what Alskins thought, that he might serve 8 to 10. But regardless, you will always have to report, my friend.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah, and his swimming career is done. That shit's a wrap.
No more night swim for you.
Hope it was worth it. Right.
No more laps in the pool, sir, for 2 hours. Yeah.
Exactly. You'll be swimming in your daddy's pool, and that's it. But so that was, I wish he had got the rape charge as well, but I was able to accept what he did get, being that he almost got off. He almost did. If
on a
Vince,
technicality,
aka Bobby, hadn't stepped forward, Rachel saved that case.
Yeah.
Again. If she
She
hadn't
saved
pressed
another
him,
case.
he would have never been on the stand. They would have threw out old girl's testimony and it would have been done. Because they were trying to get it shut down right before the prosecutor said, "Excuse me, Judge, I want to call their witness."
Right, because he didn't cross him after his testimony.
Because he said,
I
"Why?
believe, right?
He's just gonna praise him more." He didn't want to cross him.
Yep, right. I do remember that. Right. So,
yeah. So
that damn podcaster.
I know. She foiled it again.
I know. Like Scooby-Doo, those ringling kids.
Yeah, exactly. So one rapist goes to jail. The other rapist kills himself. Rapist / murderer, because he was a murderer as well. Jenny's rapist was also a murderer.
Yeah, it was. You see her and went to the military.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, that's what, when you look at a lot of people who have gone to the military, who have committed some crimes, they have done that right after they've done something, join the military.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me run off so no one can find me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Basically. And he had under the cover of a father who stood ramrod straight in those pictures. Ugh.
To be honest, and he tried to blame it on being raised in a house that was violent. You know, he got beat by his father and stuff like that. But you go around raping a girl all summer long with your two friends. Who the fuck do you think you are? Like, I'm sorry.
All summer long.
All summer long.
That's what I'm like. And I don't know her mindset. But I'd be like, I'd been tired. Because, you know, it's not like, and these are just, you know what, I can't, because you know what, everybody has their own story. But I'm just like, you are outsiders. It's not like I'm, you know, like somebody in my house attacking me where I really don't have control, you know, like someone in authority figure, like a father or an uncle, or, you know what I mean? These are dudes in the neighborhood picking her up.
Man, yeah.
You know, like the one line that I wanted to get back to, and I know we're, you know, our time is running pretty long, but, you know, she gets off work with the grocery bags and they're walking home and Hannah is ahead of her, and all of a sudden Hannah doesn't hear her anymore. And it's like, how do you not hear?
Mm-hmm.
And granted, you're walking on the side of this highway, but how do you not hear your sister's no longer behind you? And these boys had picked her up in a truck. And, and that's, you know, where this final, I think, rape scene may have occurred or not. I can't remember. But, you know, one of those. And it's like, when do you get fed up? But I can't, like the story said, she's not on trial. Or, well, not Jenny, but, you know, she was a victim.
She was.
But I'm like, all summer long.
She was a victim, but I could not relate to her at all, even though she is a victim. I still could not relate. Yeah. I'm like, okay, so hypothetically, let's just say, you know, it happens the first time and you don't tell for whatever reason, whatever they threatened you with, it's strong enough to make you not say anything.
Yeah.
You just deal
and
with
that's what I thought was happening at first.
Right.
That they were like saying they were going to do something to Mom or Hannah.
Yeah. Then, I mean, honestly, I would, like we talked about earlier, I probably would be so paranoid, I would carry a weapon. Yeah. Come up on me again, and y'all
right. Go ahead and pull that little whacker out if you want to, and see what you pull back on.
Right.
Because all it takes is for me to cut off one of y'all. All
and
the rest of you guys. Right. That's all it takes.
Let me get one of you real good. That's all it takes.
That's all it takes. Baby.
So, I mean, I just don't understand why she didn't try to protect herself after, I mean, what?
Yeah.
But in the end, it doesn't matter. She was a victim and she chose her choices based on what the author wanted to write, right?
Yep.
And she didn't deserve what happened to her, period.
Right, regardless. Yep.
Yeah.
Just some assholes. And I just thought to myself, like, do they exist? And I mean, I know they do, but I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, these people exist.
I know they exist.
Yeah.
I know they exist. But I'm just like,
Well,
neighborhood little boys is constantly rape you constantly. Okay.
and Bobby doesn't say anything. He just lets it happen.
You remember what the mom said, and that was something key that I thought about with Bobby. And she said that one that keeps giving you the gum has more to lose than all of them, because he was probably, the brokest out of all of them. Because I don't think his family probably had money. He was probably hanging out with them in an attempt to kind of look cool or just to fit in. Basically, Bobby was what Bobby was to Dan, what Harris was to Scott. Because, Harris was the one. So Scott used Harris to get Kay. They didn't have a lot of money. He used him to, lure her, where Bobby kind of was, the muscle or just hanging out. So, here these rich people use the less fortunate for what they wanted, be it rape, be it,
I just can't imagine. I can't imagine as a child watching people do something horrid to someone else. Even if it was my precious reputation, I just can't imagine just standing by idle and not do. I mean, the only thing that forced him to act was when Hannah came into the picture. He was like, okay, I can't let this happen. So I'm going to hide her. I'm going to try to get her away. He did step up for that. And that is what started the, thing for him standing up against them.
Yeah.
If Hannah never came along or she ran away like he told her to, who knows what would have happened to Jenny?
Right. What would have happened?
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
You might have been found on the beach.
Got raped again.
Right.
Yeah. She'd have been raped again. Or,
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, Bobby, AKA, Vince, he played his role in that.
Oh, yeah. He did.
So for the whole damn summer until he didn't. But he just stood by.
If it was up to me,
they'd all be in jail, including Bobby.
Yeah. Because it was just Bobby and
it was 4 of them.
The other 2 died.
Yeah, but raping all summer. It was Dan, his 2 friends, and Bobby.
Right. And, yeah. Ugh.
Bump them guys,
and
all of them.
I know.
Them
little bastards.
Man, oh my God. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
I can't believe that.
And I know, and I even kind of put myself in the shoes of the mom, Scott's mom, who he didn't do anything. And I was just like, would I protect my son like that? And I mean, granted, he probably told his mom, I didn't do it. And you want to believe your child. But
I wouldn't believe him. I would believe him until it's proven. And after seeing the proof and then hearing a second person say virtually the same thing that the victim said.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would be like, kid.
Like, how dare you lie to me? I'm about to beat your ass. What the hell did you do? You gonna lie to me?
I'm going to serve a little time in jail for this one because I'm going to beat your ass.
Yes, because...
And I've already talked to my boys about, there's just things you just don't do.
No.
I am a victim of rape. And I've had this conversation with my boys several times. Things you just don't do, boy.
No.
And you kind of know your children, And I mean, granted, there are some things that are, that you may not know, but yeah.
As a woman, how could you stand by and defend your son even if he did that?
Yeah, no. If he did it.
Right. He did it.
I love you, but son, you're going to have to serve time for this one.
Yeah, you got to pay for what you did.
Yep.
And hope you learn, because that's ridiculous. Yes, you cannot be going around raping people. That is unacceptable. No. You need to go to jail. I'm sorry.
All levels. All.
Yes.
All.
And then the nerve of her to leave that message for Rachel, like, oh,
I know.
how dare you? You took sides. You were supposed to be fair.
You got your ratings. Yeah, bitch.
Exactly. Yeah, bitch. Bye. Oh my God. Like, get out of here.
Right. You know.
It would have been better if she never made that phone call to Rachel. Just let it be.
But that kind of what we were talking about. You still believed your son after all this mitigate, this evidence, all this evidence.
I'm sorry. Yep. I believe in supporting your kid. I believe in believing your child. But when you get to a point where it's clear they are lying.
Yeah, that's even when you're giving out, dishing out punishment. I want to believe you, kid, but these fingerprints on my bag of Dove's chocolate has your name. Exactly. Tied that to you. So you're guilty.
And all that chocolate around your mouth. Okay, I know you ate the chocolate. Okay, I know you did. Quit trying to lie.
So guess what?
Yeah.
You get punished.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
And you do your kid a disservice by letting them out of things like that. Like, what kind of, do you want to raise a monster?
Yeah. Hey, exactly what they raise.
He could turn into a serial rapist. You know what I'm
going to say, more than likely he has done something before. This wasn't his first. Yeah, this wasn't his first rodeo.
Yeah, like we said, with his list, how many times did he do it?
Yeah, he's done something else. You can tell. Yeah.
Ooh, Lord. Okay. So we're going to put that down, I think. So I think we got through everything. What do you think?
Yes, let my blood pressure go back down. I
need to check my Fitbit and see what my heart rate is right now, because I'm feeling a little bit. I'm feeling a little bit, Let me
heart rate was a little high there.
Quick. Okay. I'm regular.
Okay, good. All right.
So let's talk about these audiobook narrators real fast. As I already mentioned, I loved how the audiobook was laid out. So I really enjoyed it. I didn't have anything to say negative about any of the narrators that I heard on this audiobook.
Not a one. Now, I was trying to figure out January Lavoie. So I have so there were 3. Do you think January was Rachel or the podcast narrator? Because that's where because there was at first I was like, I don't hear a difference, but there was a slight difference. So, and I know at the end of the book, January Lavoie said, this is January Lavoie, blah, blah, blah. So I'm thinking she probably was Rachel. You think?
Yeah.
Because of the majority of the book was Rachel.
Now, but that is what I question, because on Audible, those names are not alphabetical. So I wonder if it's like, how when you have a movie, the top billing is first. So the first listed name is Bailey Carr. So that makes me instinctively think that Bailey Carr had the biggest part.
And see, Bailey Carr, this is what I did. I went and looked, I went on Audible and clicked on each of their names to get a sample.
Yeah.
And Bailey Carr sounds more like Hannah.
Really? Okay.
Yep. And Samantha Des sounded more like the Rachel or the podcast person.
I can see. Okay. So since you said that, I can see January Lavoie being the podcast person, because she's able to, like, that voice sounded very rich, very,
calming, and after we're done here, go on there and click on because if you click on one of those narrators, they'll show you all their books. You know how that goes. So I listened to a sample where they were the only narrator, and Bailey Carr definitely is Hannah.
Okay.
But I was that distinction between Samantha and January was very like, ugh.
They're very
Couldn't
close.
Get it. But yeah, love them. This was.
And I mean, it was brilliant to put that music, what's the book like? What is the word? Book ending those chapters, the beginning at the end. So even if you're like listening but not fully listening, hearing the music cues you, oh, this is the end of this part. So I got to give the producers or whoever thought of that at Macmillan Audio credit for that, because that really helped the listening experience.
It was. This is for this year of listening. I would mark this as one of the best ones so far that I can remember. This is very memorable.
Mm-hmm.
So I would mark this as one of my top listens of the year.
Yeah, it was very, very good.
Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Had me on the edge of my seat. I mean, it was like I said, I was like,
yes, I was just listening and listening and listening. And then I'm like, oh, I guess I should stop for a while.
Yeah, it was a very good. The narrators were wonderful. And, we love January. So,
yeah,
these I think I tried to see if I listened to anything else by the other narrators, and I don't think I have, but they were great.
They were. I have zero things bad to say. It was really enjoyable, and I do recommend this over reading it. I do. I think this is the better way to go. If you're an audiobook listener, some people don't listen, but if you do, this is definitely, I think, the preferred method. It's just sometimes it just is so phenomenal on audio. You have to, try.
And they set the tone, like you said, the directors or whoever chose this, they really set the tone for the mood, the tone, all of it. It was just well done.
Welcome to episode 3 of Guilty or Not Guilty.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. Oh God, what's going to happen?
What? They probably will have another book, because remember her producer, Pete, the one who was in the hospital. Yeah.
He said, I have a great idea for season 5. Call me.
Yeah. So, we'll have to look for that.
Yeah. I hope we get to see more of Rachel and her sidekick Pete that we never see, but we only hear from every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Go around the country just solving crimes and putting people in jail or setting them free.
Yep.
Wow.
Wreaking havoc in courtrooms.
Mm-hmm. Look, the judges see her coming like, oh my God. Like the judge already, he heard about her. So she was trying to keep low profile.
Right. He was like, she messed up my record.
Like, look, no one's going to come back and try to say that I put somebody away wrong or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Damn podcaster.
Mm-hmm. Well, so let's rate this thing. Let's rate The Night Swim. You want to go first, Classy?
Oh, gosh. If I could give halves, I could. But since I can't, I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay. It's funny. I wrote down 4. But then as we were talking, I'm like, man, maybe it deserves a little more than a 4. But we don't do halves because Goodreads doesn't do halves. You can't do halves there. You can't do halves on Amazon. So it's whole numbers. So I'm going to go with the 4. I enjoyed it immensely, but it just wasn't that 5-star fully for me.
No.
So
yeah, there were, like you said, there were some things I couldn't relate to. There were a few little, glitches, but it was enjoyable. I mean, a 4 is good.
Oh, it's very good.
Real good.
I definitely recommend this book. I think it will be an excellent real world book club book. You can get a lot of mileage out of it talking.
Yeah, a lot.
Listening to our little book club here today. I'm sure you got a lot
and we got
the
true storylines too.
Yeah.
There will be a lot to discuss.
And you guys can sort out all the characters better than we did. Okay, I just got confused on this one character.
Man. And now I feel like I got to go back and see who was this person.
Mm-hmm. I just wish I could remember about what percentage I was when that
talked about.
It was after 75%, I think, but I can't remember. I'd have to listen to a whole probably back end of that book again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's time to move on. Look, there's things to listen to, things to read. I got to move forward. It's
right. It happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm. And I try to remember.
Can somebody
everything.
say Game of Thrones? Okay.
Right. I really try to remember all the details, but I blame it on not having my piece of paper. I would have probably got it right.
That's right.
All right. I guess we're done for today.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
I think we are done. That was a lot.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was a lot, you guys. So please let us know. I would love to know what you thought of this episode. If you are still listening right now at the end, please tell me what you thought of this episode. Did we entertain you? I hope we didn't scare you off the book at all.
Right.
Hopefully you want to read it anyway if you haven't read it. If you did read it, of course, share with, Classy and myself what you thought of it. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter. And, of course, in Shelf Addiction Official.
Yes.
So that is it. And we will catch you guys next month. Happy reading, guys.
If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcast and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.
Worried about keeping up with your fave friends all summer? Or posting every perfectly pink sunset you see? Don't sweat the Connect. You can have it made in the shade with 4 lines of unlimited data for $100 a month. Scroll the staycation pics, find your new go-to takeout spot, or catch some rays on video chat. Whatever you and the crew are into, all the data makes it all that much better. Smile. You're on Cricket.
Cricket Core acquired on 4 lines. Data speed limited to 3 megabits per second. Cricket may slow data speeds when the network is busy. Additional fees, usage, and restrictions apply.
It's premiere week on The Kelly Clarkson Show, and we've got music's biggest stars all week long. Performances by John Legend, Little Big Town, Machine Gun Kelly, and Common. And appearances by Usher, Josh Groban, Queen Latifah, and more. Get ready, y'all. The Kelly Clarkson Show, all new season 2.
Weekdays at 2 on NBC4.